Welcome to NFL Nexus. When a team's season just completely implodes, the front office basically hits a fork in the road. Path number one, you play it safe. A slow, cautious rebuild, tear it all down. But path number two? Well, that one's for the gamblers. That's when you push every single chip you have to the center of the table and you just go all in. And the Indianapolis Colts, after a truly spectacular flameout to end their 2025 season, they absolutely chose path number two. So today, we are breaking down their massive 2026 offseason. We're talking about a series of moves that add up to over $200 million that could, literally, either make them a Super Bowl contender or set this franchise back for years.
To really get why the Colts felt they had to do something so drastic, you gotta rewind to the end of their 2025 season. Because, look, they weren't just a bad team. They were a good team that fell off a cliff. Through week 10, they were sitting pretty at 7-2. They looked like a genuine powerhouse in the AFC. And then, poof. The bottom just fell out. It completely evaporated. They lost 7 straight games to end the year at 7-9. And it wasn't just losing, it was how they lost. Blowouts, last-second heartbreakers. The offense couldn't move. The defense couldn't stop anybody. It was a total systems failure that just screamed, we have major problems, and left the front office with a crisis that needed a big, loud answer.
So this is the big question that lands right on General Manager Chris Ballard's desk. How in the world do you fix a meltdown like that, right? This isn't something you can fix by just firing a coach or hoping you get luckier with injuries next year. A 7-game freefall from contender to afterthought, that requires a response that is decisive, it's aggressive, and it sends a message to everybody in that locker room. And boy, did the Colts deliver. Every single signing, every trade, every dollar they spent this offseason, it was all a direct, forceful answer to this very question. They didn't just fight fire with fire, they fought fire with napalm. And that forceful answer started, without a doubt, on the offensive side of the ball. The Colts didn't just dip their toe in the free agency pool, they did a full-on cannonball right into the deep end. They committed a staggering, almost unbelievable amount of cash to 2 key guys on offense, making this huge bet that an explosive, high-powered offense wasn't just part of the solution, it was the only solution. This, right here, is where that $200 million gamble really begins. And this was the first domino to fall, a number that honestly sent shockwaves through the entire league. $114 million. Just let that sink in for a second. In today's NFL, that's elite quarterback money. That is a massive, franchise-altering investment. And the Colts gave every single cent of it to a wide receiver, which pretty much signals a complete philosophical change for the whole organization. And here he is, the man at the center of that 9-figure deal, Alec Pierce. Now, what's so fascinating here is the absolute whiplash you get looking at the pros and cons. The pro is legitimately elite, leading the entire NFL with 21.3 yards per catch. That means he's not just a deep threat, he is the deep threat. Every time he touches the ball, it could be a touchdown. But then you look over at the con, and it's this giant flashing red light. He has never, not once in his career, caught more than 50 passes in a season. So the Colts just made a guy who is, by the numbers, a specialist. An amazing one, but a specialist. One of the highest paid receivers in football history. It is the ultimate gamble on quality over quantity. But Chris Ballard was not even close to done. The ink was barely dry on that monster deal for Pierce when they followed it up with another massive payday. $88 million, and this time, it was for the guy they're counting on to actually throw those deep balls to Alec Pierce. And that guy is Daniel Jones. In its own way, this move is just as risky, just as polarizing as the Pierce contract. So let's look at the pros first. Before he got hurt in Week 14, Jones was honestly having the best year of his career. He was on pace for over 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, and he was taking care of the ball. But that con, man, it is terrifying. A ruptured Achilles is maybe the worst injury an athlete can have, especially for a quarterback, who needs his mobility. So the bottom line is this, the Colts have tied up almost $90 million in a quarterback who might not even be ready for Week 1. And when he does come back, nobody knows if he'll be the same player. And this right here just lays out the whole philosophy shift perfectly. See, to afford these gigantic contracts, someone had to go. And that someone was their number 1 receiver and a huge fan favorite, Michael Pittman Jr., who they shipped off to the Steelers. And Pittman is the exact opposite of Alec Pierce. He's your reliable, high-volume guy.
He's the one you trust on 3rd and 7 to move the sticks. He is Mr. Consistent. So by trading him and paying Pierce, Chris Ballard was basically shouting from the rooftops, "We are done with methodical dink and dunk offense. We are all in on the home run ball." Of course, the guys at the center of all this, they hear the noise. They know what everyone's saying. And here's what Alec Pierce had to say about it at his press conference. He's not running from the pressure of that $114 million price tag. Nope. He's leaning right into it. He's talking about this special connection with Daniel Jones that he thinks is going to prove everybody wrong. It's a bold stance from a guy who just bet on himself and won big, and is now betting that he and his quarterback can carry this entire team. But here's the thing about a gamble this huge, right? Spending over $200 million on just 2 guys doesn't happen in a vacuum. The NFL salary cap is a harsh reality. You can't just add that much money to the payroll without some serious pains somewhere else. So to really understand this bet, we have to look at what the Colts added, sure, but we also have to look at the massive price they had to pay to make it all happen. And oh man, the price was steep. We already talked about losing Michael Pittman Jr., their most reliable offensive player. But on top of that, they lost their starting right tackle, Braden Smith, to a division rival in the Texans, which leaves a huge hole on the O-line. Then, on defense, their best pass rusher, Kwity Paye, is gone to the Raiders. And maybe the biggest hit of all for the future of the team, they don't have a first-round pick in this year's draft. They sent it to the Jets for Sauce Gardner. And that pick, that's your best chance to get an elite player on a cheap rookie contract. And for the Colts, that option is completely gone. All right, before we dig into how the Colts tried to patch up their defense, we just want to take a quick second to ask for your support. We love making these deep dive explainers for you here at NFL Nexus, and if you enjoy this kind of thing, please consider helping us out. A really great way to do that is by picking up one of our NFL-themed coloring books. Seriously, they're perfect for kids, grandkids, and hey, even for adults who just need to relax. You can scan the QR code that's right here on the screen, or just click the link down in the description. Your support truly means the world to us, so thank you. Okay, so while those giant 9-figure deals on offense were getting all the headlines, the Colts front office knew they couldn't just ignore the other side of the ball. I mean, the defense was just as much to blame for that 7-game collapse. But now, they didn't have the cash for any big, splashy free agents. So instead, they had to get crafty. They made a series of smart, calculated moves to overhaul the D-line and add some much-needed veteran leadership in the secondary. So priority number 1 was rebuilding that defensive line that got bullied last year. After losing their top pass rusher, Kwity Paye, they basically decided to replace his production by committee. They brought in 2 new guys off the edge, the veteran Arden Key and the high-energy Michael Clemens. Then, to plug up the holes in the run game, they signed a classic big-bodied run stuffer in Derek Nottie. Now, these aren't names that are going to blow you away, but they are very specific moves designed to make the Colts a tougher, more physical team up front. But their most interesting move on defense, maybe the most impactful one, came in the secondary. And it wasn't just about the player's talent. It was about a relationship that was already there. A reunion between a player and a coach that made this signing just a perfect fit from the second he walked through the door. And you can just hear the excitement in his voice right here. This is cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt, who used to play for the Bengals, talking about the Colts' defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. See, Anarumo was his DC in Cincinnati, where he played the best football of his career in a system that he absolutely thrived in. So the chance to get back with a coach he trusts in a system he already knows like the back of his hand, yeah, that was clearly a huge reason he decided to come to Indy. So let's break down who the Colts are actually getting here. Cam Taylor-Britt is a solid, tough corner. The career numbers are pretty good, over 200 tackles, almost 40 passes defended, 7 picks. But the key thing here, the most important part, is that he knows Lou Anarumo's defense inside and out. There's no learning curve. He can step in from day one and be a reliable guy, adding some real veteran depth to a secondary that already has a superstar in Sauce Gardner and a great slot corner in Kenny Moore II. This is what you'd call a smart, high-floor signing. You know, in the middle of all this crazy change, the huge contracts, trading away star players, a brand new philosophy, the Colts organization also had this really touching moment of reflection. As the team is just hurtling towards this super risky, unknown future, they actually hit pause to say a proper goodbye to a quiet legend, a guy who represented a decade of stability and greatness. T.Y. Hilton, the Ghost, officially called it a career. For 10 seasons, man, he was the heart and soul of that Colts passing attack. He was a constant through all the different quarterbacks and different coaches. And his heartfelt message here, it's just such a perfect symbol for what's happening. The Colts are moving on from a guy who was the very definition of consistent to gamble everything on a new era of big play potential.
And this slide right here, this shows you exactly what consistency looks like and exactly what the Colts are moving on from. Just look at these numbers. In 10 seasons with the horseshoe on his helmet, 631 catches, almost 10,000 yards, 53 touchdowns, 4 Pro Bowls, and 5 different seasons where he went for over 1,000 yards. The man was an absolute legend in Indianapolis, and his retirement really does mark the end of an era. It's closing the book on one chapter right as the team starts its riskiest one yet.
And so, that brings us all the way back to the ultimate question. When you add it all up, the hundreds of millions of dollars, the stars they lost, the entire philosophy of the team changing, what is the final verdict on this Colts offseason? Is this a calculated, high-stakes gamble, or is it a complete and total roster meltdown? There are really two very clear paths this could go. On one hand, the case for this being a high-stakes gamble that pays off, it's pretty compelling. The front office saw they were stuck in neutral, and they took bold action. They built an offense with a clear, explosive identity, and they fixed the defense with smart veterans. But on the other hand, the case for a roster meltdown is just as scary and just as real. They might have massively overpaid for a receiver who only does one thing. They are betting the entire franchise on a quarterback coming off a devastating injury. And they did all of this while trading away their first-round pick, leaving them with no easy way to get younger and cheaper.
So, we end right back where we started. Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts have pushed all their chips into the middle of the table. They made their bet. And now all they can do, and all their fans can do, is hold their breath and wait to see what cards come out. Is this the move that makes them a contender? Or is this the move that sends them to the bottom of the league for the next 5 years? And that is the big question we want to leave you with. What do you think? Did the Colts make the right call, or is this a total disaster waiting to happen? Get down in the comments section and let us know your take. We really do read every single one. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a huge favor and smash that like button. And make sure you're subscribed to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one all season long. Thanks for watching.